All right, so I believe that we are.
And hit record. Perfect, we're on.
All right, so I believe that we are.
And hit record.
But I'm hearing a delay.
So on the
Perfect.
YouTube, mute YouTube.
You're done, I've already done it.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so we're just going to give it one more minute, give people time to join us. And then we'll get started. Okay, so I think we should just begin because either way, my YouTube is all set up now. This is our first time doing this, you guys. My YouTube is set up right now, so I'm not even going to look at YouTube. I'm just going to focus on our screen.
Okay, so it's going. There's people commenting. People can hear us.
Yeah, there's people commenting already.
Can they hear us?
Can you guys hear us right now? Are you guys able to hear us? Please give me a yes. Yep, they can hear us.
All right.
All right, Lorie.
Let's
so this
do
is going to
this.
be I'm doing this together. And this is impromptu for everyone. We decided to do this on the whim. All right, Lorie. And we have not prepared anything, but we have been chatting every single day and sharing amongst each other the numerous downloads that we get daily. And so I'm really jazzed to be connecting with you today, Lorie.
I'm so happy you messaged me this morning. I mean, I know that you've been feeling the same way, but it feels like right now there's no more potent time for us to start to really wake humanity up without fear, without like a judgment around it, but it's becoming so loud that we've got to get to work. We've got to shake ourselves and the rest of humanity up in a way that catapults us out of this sort of massive slumber and sleepwalking that we are still finding ourselves in.
Yeah. So today I want to talk about what the vision that I received this morning. And I haven't shared this with you yet. And then you can feel free to chime in and give your 2 cents. What I kept hearing is humanity getting dumber. And then I kept hearing the word predisposition. And a predisposition to me, and this just came to me this morning, a predisposition is actually part of your blueprint. A predisposition is part of your life plan or your soul's plan as a frequency that's probably been left unresolved in other lifetimes, or perhaps, forget linearly speaking, it is a frequency that you came here on a vibrational assignment to clear or to allow your soul to evolve. And so a lot of people have a predisposition to be in a state of disempowerment when it comes to men or when it comes to the decisions that they make in life. And I don't want to harp on the predisposition too much, but I kept seeing that no one can do anything to us. We are not victims to circumstances. We are not victims to this reality. We have these predispositions or these tendencies or proclivities to lean into certain themes that we're looking to resolve. And so even though the authority figures and the government and the MSM which is the mainstream news, even though they are doing things, no one's forcing us by the hand. There was already a frequency or a predispositional vibration in your field that was causing you to take the bait. Most of us do take the bait, failing to realize that we actually have to do the opposite of what the predisposition is wanting us to do. So in other words, you might drink a lot in life, or you might do a lot of drugs. That's the predisposition. But actually the way that you evolve your soul is that you go against that predisposition, meaning you decide to clear the pattern, or you uninstall the program, or you deactivate that software. And as you do that, you're able to elevate your soul, you're able to vibrate yourself into a higher vibrational domain. And so I'm going to continue just a little bit, and then I want you to chime in. So we have all these frequencies in our bodies that are dominant, but they are not the enemy. They are actually teaching us how to learn discernment. So we drop into this human form, i.e. we drop into density. Then there's the veil of forgetfulness that sets in. We get cloaked. And then our predispositions run the show for us. Then the idea is to pivot your consciousness and say, this is not helping me. Now I'm ready to elevate to a higher state of consciousness. So right now in the world, are people getting dumber? And this is where the magic, this is where the gold comes in. They are getting dumber in the sense that every action, every choice that you make, every action that you take is a physical, bodily action that only feeds that predisposition. It only feeds into your own embedded fears or predisposed fears. And as soon as you take an action in the physical world, you are literally dropping a floor in density. You are literally dropping to a lower density. And if you do that over time, then we degenerate as humans, or we degrade our DNA as humans. And so the idea is, if we observe the tendency to buy into something hook, line, and sinker, if we observe it, then we are evolving ourselves, because we're not physically choosing to collude with it, which is to say to be in cahoots with it, or to sign on the dotted line with that particular pull. So the outer world was designed, it was architected to vacuum us. But it's not doing that to us. All it's doing is it's lending us an opportunity to activate our divine blueprint. It's lending us an opportunity to go the opposite direction of our predisposition, so that we can neutralize that charge.
Freaking amazing. What this is what you're speaking of is that we are not a victim to the external. We're actually not a victim to the programs, the paradigms, the density even. We're not even a program to the, we're not even a victim to the third dimensional matrix, basically, is what you're saying. If you think about these predispositions that you're speaking of, and when you step into that, when you incarnate into the human body with these predispositions, it's almost like these little potholes, right? And the external is going to validate these potholes. So if we're walking around and an external system taps into that predisposition and you find yourself in the pothole, what's going to happen? You're going to keep sinking into that pothole, because you're only going to be revalidated over and over again, that pothole, that predisposition. Our job, our role here is to recognize I'm in these potholes, i.e. I'm in these predispositions, and the external is going to perpetuate. They're going to perpetuate these predispositions, these potholes. So all of a sudden, even if we try to crawl out of the pothole, what's going to happen? We're going to feel okay for a little bit, and then boom, another freaking pothole predisposition. And so then we start to give up. We're like, screw it. All I keep doing is finding myself in these potholes. It's too difficult. It's too challenging. I can't do it. Every time I try to get out of a pothole, I get thrown back in because of, so then there's more victimhood. And right now what we're finding are these predispositions that we came in with, Akashic record, past lives, things that we wanted to experience, whatever it is. And we're being validated by the external. We're falling deeper into these predispositions. And this now moment is asking us to stop the freaking jumping in the potholes. Stop letting the external, the predispositions tell you that you are not the creator being, that you don't have a choice, that you don't have to fall into the potholes any longer. It's easier to fall into a pothole and to let yourself sink than it is to crawl out of that pothole, to literally like, I'm done playing in these behaviors, playing in these relationships, playing in whatever it is, standing on the ground again, and then consciously choosing to do the opposite of whatever you were doing when you were in that pothole.
It's not what we are doing is we are no longer enabling the outer matrix, the third dimensional matrix, to consume our disempowerment. We are no longer letting them decide or dictate our reality through us and for us. We literally have to hit the unsubscribe, or figuratively have to hit the unsubscribe button from that mailing list. But it's so difficult for people because here's the thing, and I was thinking about this today. If someone decides to go out to the club and they're making a conscious decision to let their hair down, to have a few drinks, it's a conscious choice to recalibrate their body because they've been working hard. So they're going in saying, I'm not going to get plastered tonight. I'm going to enjoy myself, but I'm not going to overdo it. But in a physical sense, and I'm not against having a drink every 5 months or something, but in a physical sense, when they drink, that's a physical action that will change their body. They're not going to be the most coherent that night, which there's nothing wrong with that. No judgment. They want to let their hair down. They want to blow off some steam. They want to let themselves off the hook. Beautiful. However, what I was hearing this morning is that energy is the same. Energy is the same as a drink. Energy is the same as food. Energy is something that you consume. Energy is something that you inhale and ingest. So when you make a choice that only feeds into your disempowerment, then the energy that you're actually ingesting is going to keep you entrenched or embedded in that third dimensional program. So you cannot uninstall a program if you say to yourself, I want to lose weight, and then every night you beat yourself up and you eat and then you judge yourself. It keeps you in that loop. The idea is to release the judgment, to break out of that loop. But right now, there are so many judgments that people hold towards themselves that are perpetuating them continually disempowering themselves. They don't even, a lot of people aren't even cognizant of their own judgment. They're not even cognizant of their own fears. But that fear lives within them. It resides in their system as a lower frequency. Then that lower frequency tells them what to do, what to not do. And they end up succumbing to fear rather than surrendering into love. So let's talk about that for a minute. Touch on that. There is love and there is fear. There is empowerment, there is disempowerment. What humanity is in the midst of doing right now is they're constantly disempowering themselves because they say that they're walking their talk. And I see this all the time. People say to me, I love your work. They'll pass by, they'll say, I love your work, but they're wearing the mask. They'll pass by, they'll say, I love your work, but they're not taking physical actions to anchor in that higher reality. They are succumbing to fear rather than surrendering to love. And when we love ourselves, we don't self-inflict. When we love ourselves, we do what we want to do. But I think we've had these enslavement memes deeply, deeply embedded in our systems for centuries. And so we don't always trust that we can say, I'm going to break free. I'm going to unshackle myself now. I am here to be free. Because every time we say I'm going to own it, there's this program in the background that we run that says, but if I have good things happen to me, then something bad's going to happen to me. If I'm free, then they're going to come for me. If I'm free, I'm going to get deplatformed. If I'm free, I'm going to get censored. If I'm free, there's all these terms and conditions that have been there long before we were born. So can you touch on surrendering to love? So love is the most powerful force there is. Love is freedom versus succumbing to fear and disempowerment.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Fear and love are on equal grounds right now. They are the most potent consciousnesses that we are literally battling every day. Love is choice. Fear is I have no choice. They both exist, they're both real, but it's what are you going to choose to hold in your reality? Because
wow. That was so profound. Love is choice.
Love is choice, fear is no choice.
Wow, I love that.
What else did I say?
Profound. That's so powerful.
They both are just as potent though. So there's these two clouds of consciousness that we can literally walk into in every now moment, and we can create our reality from both of these. And a lot of us are going back and forth between the fear and the love, and the fear and the love, the choice, the no choice, the victimhood, the empowerment, over and over and over again. And what we have learned in this human journey is that if I choose, if I become empowered, if I step out of victimhood, the systems that be are going to throw me back in. They're going to throw me back in. They're going to throw me back in. Right? And so learning that this now moment, you guys, this now moment, you are not designed to be pummeled back into fear. You and I have been experiencing this last couple of weeks. It's like, oh my God, can life really be this great? Can I really not think any longer that when is the next shoe going to drop? The consciousness we are in right now is the shoe is never going to drop again. If you hold that reality, if you say to yourselves, holy crap, I am here to step into the consciousness of love, which doesn't mean that I have to love everyone. Like, oh my God, I love you. No, it's empowerment. It is choice. It is stepping out of victimhood. It is freeing yourself. It is being sovereign. It is speaking your truth. It is saying, I'm not going to wear a mask if I don't want to. This is love. And that fear consciousness is going to say, wait a minute, you've always been this way. This is the safe route. This is where everyone else is. Why are you not? Let's do this. This is what everybody does. And we are here to do this. We're here to do this now, to literally courageously stand free outside of that jail cell that we're so comfortable in. We're not comfortable here. I don't care what you tell me. Most of us are not comfortable here. We want to be comfortable here. But to be comfortable in your truth, in your sovereignty, in your choice, in your empowerment, it's a practice. It's what we practice every day. And that's what we're here to do. We're literally breaking out of this massive fear consciousness that has perpetuated those predispositions that we have fallen into over and over and over again. And it's a choice in every now. It's a choice every now.
I kept hearing yesterday, you are the product of all the choices that you've made. I kept hearing that yesterday. And every moment is a choice. I was speaking to someone the other day, they're like, but I can't do that. And I said, well, if you can do that, does it mean that, is there another choice where you can? Of course there is. There's always a choice. It always boils down to choice. And I love what you just shared, because I kept seeing as well that we are like a nail, and what the outer world is making us do, not really. No one can make you do anything. I want to be adamantly clear. I want to be crystal clear. No one can make you do anything. They serve up a dish and you decide if you want to take a bite. You decide, do I want to take a bite of this? But what they're doing, they know your predispositions. They know, they're very aware that you went to school, that you studied history when you hated history. They know that your family members were kind of like the Matrix, meaning your family was a microcosmic version of the Matrix that you had to break out of, for most of us anyway.
So
it's different. But your family was the Matrix. And so you've been literally firmly instilled with all of these different programs that belong to that fear system. You don't know any better, and they know that. They know you're still watching TV because you're paying every month. They know everything. So what they're attempting to do, and they're not doing it to you, that's where I want to be clear. I saw us being like a nail, and they just keep hammering us down deeper into density. And every single time that you fall hook, line, and sinker for something through your physical action, very important, because your body is here to ascend. If your actions aren't in line with your consciousness, you're not ascending.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's so good because the body's physical. Ascension's physical.
Ascension is physical, and there's a discrepancy, there's going to be a discrepancy or a gap or an incongruency if your actions don't match your state of consciousness.
Which is the frequency in your body.
So the state of consciousness is outside of the body. The state of consciousness is who you know yourself to be. Okay. But then who you know yourself to be instructs who you are, meaning the frequency that you're currently dwelling at bodily, physically. So the frequency of who you know yourself to be is constantly instructing who you are, what you need to do in order to ascend your body. So I know I shouldn't date this guy because I know this pattern. There's an alarm system going off in my mind. Is my action going to honor what I know? I know I want to be free. I know I don't want to belong to the matrix. Why am I still going to a job that is forcing me to wear a mask if I don't want to live that reality? Every single time that you take an action that is further investing, meaning adding to the piggy bank of the fear system, how can you get out of it? You cannot. You cannot break out of a system that you're still investing in. You cannot.
That's dissonance.
And I want to say one more thing, because that system is really just an extension of your consciousness. It's a reflection of your consciousness. You can't break out of your own consciousness hoping that the physical action you take is going to break you free of what's yours. You are consciousness. You are consciousness. So if your job is reflecting back to you, I don't want to wear masks, and you keep going because you have this limiting belief that you have to make money, then that how can you break out of your own consciousness if you're still investing in your outer consciousness? That what you're investing in is just a reflection of your consciousness. Yeah, okay, can I use another example?
Yeah, this is so important. This is so key.
If I say to you, Lorie, I really think we've been talking a lot this week. I think we need to slow down. I'm not going to break out of that consciousness because I'm asking for your permission. But if I don't talk to you for a couple of days and I take a breather, we both shift. Because our actions are in alignment with what we want. We don't need to explain it. We don't need to justify it. You don't need to say to your boyfriend, I really want a divorce, or your husband, I really want a divorce. You're asking for permission. You're going to keep yourself entrenched in that matrix. What you want to do is get clear on your end, allow your physical body to adapt or acclimate to what you already know, and then that reality shifts.
This is huge. This is so simple, but it's so simple. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's so simple, but it's massive because this is what's happening right now. There is an aspect of us, our consciousness that is saying, I don't want to wear the mask. I don't want to get the jab. I don't want to put my kids in school. I don't want to, they are resisting what's happening in the collective because they know that they are here to step out of it, to empower and to no longer be the victim and live in fear. But their actions are still in those potholes. Their actions are still allowing them to be the victim, allowing them to, it's holding them back from where their state of consciousness wants them to go. If we just listened to that state of consciousness, followed that state of consciousness and trusted that we would be okay, that all is going to be okay, otherwise we wouldn't be incarnated at this time, that we are designed to follow that state of consciousness, that we are designed to be taken care of, that when you step out of that matrix, that belief system that the systems have told us that we have to follow, we have to believe, we have to be in fear, we have to trust them and not ourselves, not our own state. We trust them before our own state of consciousness? What? I'm trusting these authority figures before I trust myself? Have I forgotten that I am God incarnate? And if I'm God incarnate, nobody is God for me. Therefore, if my consciousness is saying, I don't want to wear a mask, so I'm not going to take this job anymore, do you think God's going to say to you, oh, you're screwed? You're never going to have another job and you're going to be homeless? Quite the contrary. I think God's going to say, go you, what do you want? Free yourself. Let's freaking do this. Think about it.
Yes. And as you were talking about the potholes, the predispositions, they give you a false sense of comfort because you're used to the pain. You've numbed yourself to the pain. You're used to your mom or your brother or your sister being dysfunctional. That's comforting to you. So of course you're going to be influenced by these systems rather than having influence over your life. And I said this yesterday, you cannot become influential if you're under the influence. You cannot become influential if you are under the influence. And right now, there are a lot of people who are very terrified, which is very understandable. It's terrifying to break away from what you've known your entire life, from the familiar. It's very terrifying. But I promise you guys, because there's no luck involved on this path, it's all alchemy. I promise you guys, that if you throw caution to the wind and you are brave enough to step out of that matrix and to say, I'm finally going to take an action to divest rather than invest, to divest myself of this system, then of course I'm going to witness everything collapse in front of me because it was all based on fear. It was all founded on fear, but I will gain everything. So your mind is going to play a trick on you saying you're going to lose it all, when in actuality, you're going to gain it all. You're going to gain it all. And the reason why fear has such a tight grip over people is because that's what most people are running. So the second that you entertain the idea of breaking out, the fear, which is the mass consciousness that's being held by most humans right now, is going to be like a dark cloud looming over you saying, but if you do, this is going to happen to you. But if you do, this is going to happen to you. And it's going to send you into this quicksand of stress and anxiety and fear.
And it's going to hold you chained. It's going to hold you in that jail cell that we call the third dimensional matrix. It's going to hold you back. It's going to make you say, no, I can't. I should take the jab so that I can go on that cruise. I should take the jab so that I can travel. I should take the jab. And listen, there's nothing wrong with taking the jab or not taking the jab, wearing the mask, wearing the mask, whatever it is you decide to do, right? But this is imperative because this is what's in the forefront of us. I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Okay. We were talking about how fear has a tight grip over people. It's people's authority.
Yes. So if you continue if your consciousness is saying, it's freeing you, it's trying to get you to step out. It's asking you to speak up. There's so many of us right now that are feeling this strong urge to break out of what the systems want us to do, to not put our kids in those schools, to et cetera, right? But that fear is saying you can't because of ... I can't because ... If I did ... That is only true if you give it your attention. It is only true if you say this is true, which means that you are now putting all your eggs in the basket of fear consciousness instead of love consciousness. Love consciousness is always going to take care of you. Always. We don't know this because we've never really lived this way. So we don't realize that when we start to live with love consciousness, we are so abundantly taken care of, but because we haven't lived it yet, we doubt it. And the systems that want to keep us in control are going to absolutely tell you everything you need to know to not trust that you're God, to not trust that you're powerful, to not trust that you create your reality, to not trust that if you jump and say, screw you, I'm going to do this my way, that you're going to soar, right? We're told the opposite, to continue to pull us. And right now, by the way, all of you are here to be influences for the people that are in your life. So, Phil says, oh, this is how you become influential. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm not supposed to be influential. Yes, you are. You are designed to be influential to your children, to your grandparents, to your coworkers, to your friends, to the person walking down the street. That's why you incarnated at this time. That's why you're listening to us right now, because you are designed to be on the front lines, to influence the entire human collective, to step out of what we have been in for so long, this conditioned jail.
I also want to ask someone a very potent question that's coming up for me right now. Ooh, this is so good. If God, if Source gave fear the ability to become a creator, and you became a servant to fear, where in your right mind do you not think that God gave you the ability to become a creator? If God gave fear to create so much right now, the news media, the jabs, the masks, fear comes from Source. God gave fear the ability to create fear. So why don't you think that you have the ability to create what you want?
And fear is fear.
God didn't say, fear, you're not allowed to create. God didn't disable fear's ability to create. So why is it that you're choosing to be a servant to fear as opposed to being a creator for love?
Oh!
You're choosing.
And also,
one more thing. I'm on fire. Okay. One more thing. If you keep paying for a service like your internet, is it going to get canceled? If you keep paying for a service, is it going to get canceled? If you keep paying for your rent, is your rent going to get canceled? No. So if you keep investing in fear, is it going to get canceled? No. You are literally treating fear like a god when you yourself are a god. And fear intimidated you, fear coerced you into thinking that you were not a god. And now your power has been thrown in that pile of disempowerment. And the reason why you're struggling and you're crying about going to a job that's forcing you to wear a mask is because you're not taking your power back. This is all a game of personal power. And I know for me, and I'm sure for Lorie too, I didn't get here by mistake, and I still have ways to go. I had to sacrifice so much not knowing what was next. I had to sacrifice so much not knowing what was next. But you know what? My soul mattered more. My soul, my liberation mattered more than any money I could make. It mattered more than any friends that were fake. That rhymed. It mattered more than everything. So you have to be willing to surrender your ego to surrender into love. You have to be willing to surrender your fear to surrender into your empowerment. Otherwise, you're just succumbing to your disempowerment. You're just succumbing to fear. You're succumbing to these narratives. You're succumbing to these agendas. You have to be awake. You have to be alive. You have to be aware. You have to be discerning. And you're seeing it everywhere now, even on Netflix shows. By the way, an agenda isn't only driven by the government. An agenda can be something I'm pushing on Lorie. An agenda can be something that's being pushed on Netflix. I see it every day on Netflix, 12-year-olds making out on a scene. And you can tell it's been inserted, but it's not real. It's artificial. They're pushing an agenda and it doesn't match the script of the show. I don't mind if 12-year-olds make out, that's their own thing, but you can even see it in Netflix now. They make these kids get in these sexual scenes, but it doesn't feel natural to the movie or to the show. It's inserted as an agenda that's being pushed to brainwash you, to mind control you. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so one of the things I want to say is that, so if you recognize that fear, there's two things. Fear is God as well, right? Fear is a reflection of God. So we're playing this game with God, which is fear. We are God as well. So we're on equal playing grounds, right? It's not more powerful than we are. So we're all playing this game right now. We're all in this together, meaning all consciousnesses, all humans, all beings, all plants, all trees, all birds, whatever, lizards, whatever. Fear is an aspect of God, right? And we live on a planetary system in a dimensional field where we have been programmed to believe that fear is actually in charge, that fear actually is more powerful, that it actually stands on a higher pedestal than us. when actually we are the most powerful creator beings playing side by side with fear. And so instead of being angry at fear or giving your power away to fear or walking hand in hand with fear, you can literally be like, dude, I'm done. Have a great rest of your life on this planet, doing whatever you're going to do. But I'm going to now exit this game I've been playing with you, which requires constant observation of when you're playing with fear, when you're hopscotching with fear, right? When you're playing with fear, it is an absolute choice every single time. And if you see fear as God consciousness, then it's not a negative or bad thing. It's just sort of like, oh, look at what I'm doing. There's an unconditional acceptance around it. There's not an attachment or a judgment. It's just sort of like, oh, look at what I'm doing now. I'm now continuing to play, swings. I'm on the swing set with fear right now. Do I want to do this? Because I know that that consciousness is just an aspect of God, just like I am. And it doesn't have any control over me. It has no control over me. And fear is disguised as, the legal system, all these authority people, right? But it's just.
I love that you just said disguise. And I knew I wasn't supposed to interrupt you because I was hearing that too. I heard that fear is God disguised as fear, giving you a chance to step your game up. Fear is God disguised as fear, giving you a chance to step your game up. So we almost have to start seeing fear as like this boss in a video game that's a lot more ancient than you, that was here before you were born. So to give credit where credit is due, like fear is freaking powerful. It's made me do all these things. It's made me do because it has such a magnetic force. If you think about it, everything you're doing right now, wearing the mask, there's a consciousness. There's an actual consciousness in the galaxy called fear, or a boss, or you can call it God if you want, that is so immensely powerful that it pulled you in. You don't want to demonize it. You don't want to villainize it. You want to say, man, fear, you are powerful. I want to learn those tricks. I want to be able to magnetize everything I want. Don't hate on fear. Fear wanted to create a game where it got to see how many humans it can hypnotize. If you look at it like that, fear isn't a bad person. Fear wanted to create a game. How many people can magnetize and hypnotize? So learn from fear and become the creator of your own game. What do you want to create, right? For me, I want to create that I never have to chase anything, that everything's going to come to me. Everything's going to come to me without effort. Does that make me bad? No, it's the game that I'm wanting to play. But in order to beat that game or to design or make that game, I can't be tethered to anything like fear. I have to be 100% sovereign, 100% free, 100% unshackled, because whenever you have a foot or a finger in the pie of fear, then you're not able to create. Your power, your personal power is like a tank in a video game. When that tank is full, you have superpowers. Right now, people are taking actions that are halving their tank. It's emptying their tank. You can never become a God in motion, a God in action, and God in human form if your power is with fear, because then fear is your boss. And it's not a bad thing. Fear is a freaking genius. It got you to get vaccinated. It got you to wear a mask. It got you to do all kinds of shit. And you did it. That's because fear has a strong galactic energy. It's an ancient consciousness. But guess what? You are too. You've just forgotten. You're as ancient as fear. You are God. God is just playing different roles. Are you going to be a slave to fear's play? Are you going to be a slave to fear's stage? Are you going to be an actor for fear and do what fear wants you to do? Are you going to be a puppeteer and do what fear wants you to do, getting pulled by all these strings? So are you an actor in fear's play? How's that? Are you an actor in fear's play? Are you doing what fear wants you to do? How about you become the director? How about you become the creator? How about you become the writer of your own play? But you can't do that if you're still a servant to fear. You can't do that if the energy of fear has a hold over you. Are you an actor in fear? Are you an actor in fear's play?
So good. I have to share this vision I'm getting. So God's source said to us, hey guys, your spirit of your soul, spirit, light, consciousness, whatever you want to call yourself, right? You're about to drop into a human body on this magical playing field. And by the way, there's this consciousness down there. It's badass. It's called fear. And one of the things you're going to be one of the things you're going to be battling your whole life is that consciousness. But what you're going to learn and what you're going to teach humanity is how to walk side by side with it so that it no longer controls you. But we don't know how many years, how many linear years you're going to be controlled by it. So just have patience with your humanness, because there will be a now moment where you will start to liberate yourself out of that consciousness. You'll start to see that this consciousness, which is just an aspect of you also, because it's an aspect of God, it's going to start to become obvious. It's going to start to become clear. You're going to start to see, holy shit, I have been in this. And I remember I came down here to liberate myself and to liberate the rest of humanity so that we can be on this earth plane in higher dimensional fields without any longer being controlled by fear. We can actually live on this earth the way it was designed to live millions of years ago. We can actually clear and dismantle this consciousness that has, like you said, it's ancient. It has become so massive. And we are here to literally alchemize and dissolve it with so much love and compassion for it, because it's done a badass freaking job. But it's time to no longer allow it to consume and take over this entire planetary system. It's time for us to say, wow, okay, I got it. I understand my role here. I understand what I incarnated into. I understand what it takes to now step out of it. And I'm going to do my best in every now moment, as compassionately and empathically as possible, to begin to slowly baby step my way out of that massive consciousness that, by the way, is super freaking tricky, because fear consciousness is going to tell you that you're doing a good job when you follow it, right? Fear consciousness is going to say, it's going to make you feel good when you follow it. It's going to say, oh, wait, everybody else is doing this. And if you do this, you're actually doing a good job. It's not fear. It's not fear telling you to do that. It's that you're doing what's right for humanity. But is it what I want?
Fear gets off on seeing you get dumber. So just to circle back to the title, is humanity getting dumber? Fear gets off on you getting dumber. But the thing about getting dumber is it doesn't happen overnight. It's a combination of choices that you make. And then that's how humanity descended into a denser field. It was, perfect example, you started off when the iPhone first came out, you were probably on it 2 hours a day. Now how many hours? 7. There's no judgment, but dissension happens gradually. And then everything gets normalized. We get desensitized. The mask, people are walking around right now like it's normal. I will never allow that to be normal. There's nothing normal about it, but it's becoming normalized because, again, going back to the analogy, like Lorie said, the pothole, and you can't crawl out of it, or it's a nail that's being hammered deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of the zombie, or being in an unawakened asleep state. Fear gets off on you being dumb. Fear gets off on having your power, because by having your power, guess what happens? It increases its own superpowers, and then it can bend you. It can manipulate you. So you have that power within you. It's intrinsic to you, because, again, fear is God disguised as fear. You are God disguised as Lorie. You are God disguised as Stephanie. You are God disguised as Phil. You are God. But you will never really be able to replug yourself into the entirety, into the full spectrum of your creational energy, your creational powers, if your power is with something else. So is humanity getting dumber, Lorie? I would say yes, because humanity is continually taking the bait through their predispositions, and that gradually descends them into a lower state of consciousness physically. Remember, ascension is a physical process. Ascension is my choices have to match what I know. It's not, I know this guy is bad for me and I'm going to be with him. Contradictory. That's counterintuitive. That's contradictory. You're sending off a very mixed signal into the universe. Ascension is, I'm going to anchor this light into my body. How? Through my action. Sometimes through my inaction. So I think I feel complete, but if you have anything you want to add to, is humanity getting dumber?
Yeah, I do, because I want to share the vision that I got, that I shared with you last night. I think it's important. And this isn't to say that we're not doing a great job or to be afraid, but it's to kind of bring awareness to what's to really how important it is right now to start for your actions to align with your state of consciousness. So my guide showed me that the entire human collective is on the same timeline, but each human body has their own unique timeline they're on. And based on our own actions, our own beingnesses, our own ways of navigating, it's impacting the entire human collective's timeline. And what they showed me right now is that the timeline is slowing down because humans are starting to, let's just say 6 months ago, they were sort of not on board or not going to follow the herd. And what's starting to happen, they were showing me, is that they're getting beat down. They are getting tired. They're like, forget about it. I'll just do whatever they want. And because that's what the collective systems out there are trying to do. They're trying to get us so exhausted by fighting them, by standing up for ourselves, that we eventually just say, forget it. I'm just gonna do it. And there's these humans that we're starting to go off the main timeline, which is the fastest, and we're starting to kind of pause that fast timeline. The humans are sort of starting to take a break, slow down, and sort of give in to what's happening. And it's slowing down the timeline. Instead of, I think my internet messed up. Instead of holding this highest timeline, holding your truth, holding your sovereignty, staying strong, staying firm, continuing to step out of fear over and over and over again, no matter how loud it gets, no matter what they continue to tell you is coming down the pipes. If we give ourselves over to what they want us to placate to, then we are slowing down this process. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to nail us down and get us so exhausted that we give up, and we can't give up. We have to just continue to ask ourselves, am I choosing from fear or am I choosing from love? And be courageous and compassionate around it as you're doing it.
Beautiful. I think that's a perfect way to end. That was a high note to end on. I really feel like we need to be vigilant. We need to be resilient more than ever. We need to be resilient.
Yeah.
Just keep rolling over.
Resilience.
Okay, keep doing this to me. We have to be resilient. Lorie, and I saw
compassion.
I saw the same thing. They're decelerating the timeline. Because we're vibrating at a slower speed of vibration, because we keep taking the bait. We keep subscribing to these systems. So I do see that the timeline, comparatively to a few months ago, has slowed down for us. And I can't just do it on my own, and you can't just do it on your own, and Nicholas can't just do it on his own. This is a joint effort. We all have to rise together as a one, like the tides. Everyone has to do their part. Everyone has to be willing to be bold enough and fearless enough to make decisions that are going to liberate them. It's going to be super daunting. It's going to be super petrifying. But I promise you that on the other side of that river awaits you great abundance, awaits you great joy, even better health. Everything. But you have to be patient with yourself, because things don't deconstruct overnight. Your false reality, which wasn't false, it was what you needed at the time, so we don't want to vilify it. But your false reality is like a house. When you build a new house, you have to deconstruct the old house. That's not going to happen overnight, but just be patient and be good to yourself and be good to others and be compassionate to others. All right? I love you guys so much. I love you, Lorie. Thank you for being here with me today.
I love you.
It
was so fun.
So fun. We'll do this again.
It was so great. I love you.
All right, you too.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye, guys.
So I'm